WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar and Conakry, 1 p.m. in Porto Novo. Good afternoon, and thank you for staying tuned to West Africa, the Macross Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide at wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. First, our major stories. Nigerian government denounces a report by U.S. Congress over alleged Christian genocide.
To use the faith of the inhabitants as in the motive for the attack is totally off the mark.
Mano River Union on edge of diplomatic tension after arrest of Sierra Leonean troops by Guinean forces. ECOWAS set to launch a joint naval operation to secure the Gulf of Guinea. And an umbrella body of high school teachers in Senegal threatens a nationwide strike over unmet demands.
We've been facing great difficulties as far as our careers are concerned.
Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Sankulu Jibril Janko.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast this afternoon. Newslink begins in Nigeria, where the federal government has reacted strongly to comments by the United States Congress alleging religious persecution in the country. The presidency dismissed the claims as misleading and urged a clearer understanding of the country's security challenges. WDR's Abuja correspondent Yochenu Sasetu reports.
The federal government has faulted remarks by members of the U.S. Congress suggesting that Christians and other religious groups are being persecuted in Nigeria, saying such statements mischaracterize the country's security situation. In responding to the comments, Nigeria's Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, emphasized that Nigeria does not have a state policy of religious persecution, noting that the government respects the rights and freedoms of all faith communities as enshrined in the Constitution.
Sometimes you hear these arguments about the minorities being attacked. The policing system and the security agencies will not in any way, because someone is in the minority, say he's not going to be provided security or is not going to be protected by the security agencies.
Also responding to the international reaction, the Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dele Alake, said attacks on communities in parts of northern Nigeria are largely driven by economic motives, including competition over land, resources, and livelihoods.
Some may be political, but largely economic. But then, ironically, some of those communities are inhabited by a particular religion. So now to use the faith of the inhabitants as in the motive for the attack is totally off the mark.
Analysts say while the government's rebuttal may clarify its position for international audiences, the debate highlights the continuing challenges Nigeria faces in combating insecurity and protecting its citizens. For the WADR, Yochenu Sasetu in Abuja.
Meanwhile, in the Mano River Union region, tensions are mounting between Sierra Leone and Guinea over a border dispute. And Tuesday, authorities in Conakry announced the arrest of several Sierra Leonean soldiers alleging they had crossed into Guinean territory without authorization. However, Freetown, in a swift response, offered its own explanation, saying its troops were operating within what it considers its sovereign territory. While protesting the arrest, the Sierra Leone says it has activated diplomatic channels in a bid to secure the soldiers' release. Abdullah Hassan has more in the following report.
According to the Guinean military authorities, several Sierra Leonean soldiers without authorization crossed into Guinean territory, entering the Kudaya district of the Farana prefecture. They reportedly advanced about 1.4 kilometers beyond the borderline, set up a tent and raised the Sierra Leonean flag, an act Conakry describes as an unauthorized military presence. Guinea says 16 Sierra Leonean soldiers were arrested and equipment found at the scene was seized. A statement from the Guinean command indicates that the detained soldiers and confiscated materials have been handed over to the judicial police for further investigation. But Sierra Leone has condemned the arrests. The Minister of Information, in a statement, says the incident occurred in the Sulima chiefdom, where members of the armed forces had been deployed to produce bricks for the construction of a border post and accommodation facilities to support security operations in the area. Freetown maintains that the national flag was raised on territory it considers to be under Sierra Leonean sovereignty. Authorities in Freetown say they have activated diplomatic and security channels to locate the detained personnel and secure their safe and unconditional release. They have also referred the matter to regional and sub-regional bodies while continuing consultations aimed at a peaceful, amicable resolution of the border dispute.
Abdullah Hassan filed that report. In Mali, the Bamako Military Tribunal on Tuesday heard two separate cases involving the diversion and illegal sale of weapons. The cases concerned two members of the Malian Armed Forces accused of acts considered a serious threat to national security. At the end of the hearings, the court sentenced one of the soldiers to 3 years in prison, while the second case was adjourned. Let's join Christopher Atiche for details.
The first case involves first-class soldier Mosolimi Toure, assigned to the 234th Motorized Infantry Company in Senegal. He was accused of diverting ammunition, attempting to sell it, and violating military orders. After reviewing the case, the military tribunal found him guilty and sentenced him to 3 years in prison. Because of his military status, he will initially be held at a gendarmerie facility before being transferred to a civilian prison. He has 3 days to appeal the ruling. The second case concerns Corporal Musa Sila. He is also accused of diverting ammunition, selling weapons, and breaching military regulations. However, his trial has been postponed until April 7 due to procedural flaw. The court ruled that the civil party had not been properly notified. Complicating matters further, Corporal Sila is currently absent without leave. During his submissions, Captain Aliosina Yoko, deputy prosecutor at the Bamako Military Tribunal, warned about the dangers of the illegal circulation of ammunition. He stressed that such practices fuel insecurity and strengthen terrorist groups, ultimately weakening Mali's armed forces in their fight against terrorism.
A report by WDR's Bamako correspondent Ali Cham and voiced by Christopher Aticho.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Elsewhere, Nigeria is set to host the official launch of the ECOWAS Combined Maritime Task Force in May this year. The task force is a joint naval operation to crack down on piracy, terrorism, drug smuggling, and illegal fishing in the Gulf of Guinea. The move also follows fresh commitments from 5 ECOWAS countries: Cote d'Ivoire, the Gambia, Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone to make it operational. Telling us more is Francis Boniface.
Naval chiefs from ECOWAS countries met last week in Accra, Ghana for the 5th meeting of the ECOWAS Chiefs of Naval Staff Subcommittee. The meeting focused on the dangers confronting the Gulf of Guinea daily, like pirate attacks on ships, terrorist movements by water, drug traffickers using sea routes, and illegal fishing on West African waters. Progress has already been made in the region, with joint patrols in different zones, including Operation Safe Domain and Anwanze, and Nigeria's Falcon Eye system, which watches the waters from both air and sea to spot trouble early. The network of countries will establish a quick action group that shares intelligence and responds fast to threats, building on the Yaoundé architecture for better coordination. Nigeria is leading the way as host. For the launch, it will supply 3 ships, 1 helicopter, 8 vehicles, and a furnished office to kick things off. Participants also called for closer links with landlocked neighbors like Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger to combat terrorism and transnational organized crime. With the launch just months away, one would expect fewer attacks, safer fishing grounds, and stronger protection for everyone who relies on these vital waters.
Francis Boniface reporting there. And now to education. Concerns are mounting in Ghana over rising incidents of violence in senior high schools following a string of clashes at a major inter-school events. As a result, several students were injured and others are currently in police custody. The latest developments have reignited debate about discipline. supervision and student conduct within Ghana's second cycle institutions. Well, from Accra, Nadi Tete reports.
6 students of Agri Memorial Senior High School are in police custody over the alleged assault and robbery of a final year student of Adisado College in the Central Region. The incident occurred on February 20 at the Cape Coast Stadium during an inter-college sports festival. The victim was reportedly attacked and robbed of his mobile phone and 1,400 CDs. Police say investigations are ongoing. The development came just days after another violent clash at the district school's athletics games in Agona Swedro on February 19, 2026. A student of Obrachere Senior High School was beaten with sticks and pelted with stones by a group believed to be from Swedro School of Business. Videos circulating on social media captured scenes of panic. 3 students have since been arrested in connection with the attack. The back-to-back incidents have reignited debate over discipline in senior high schools, with some calling for the return of corporal punishment. But Executive Director of the Institute for Education Studies, IFEST, Dr. Peter Patianti, says the issues go beyond punishment.
Anytime you talk about indiscipline, the first direction that comes to most people's mind is king. People don't really understand the generation that we are dealing with. This is a generation that have a lot of exposure, and you need to be very tactical in dealing with them. These kids have developed a certain kind of attitude that goes beyond you caning them. It won't change anything.
He's urging a coordinated approach that addresses supervision, school culture, parental involvement, and enforcement of existing rules. Dr. Anti warns that without a comprehensive response, such incidents could escalate and threaten safety in schools. For WEDR, Nadidi Teti, Accra.
In Senegal, the umbrella body of the unions in the education and training sector has announced a nationwide work stoppage starting today. A full strike is planned for tomorrow, with further action scheduled for next Monday, March 2. The unions are accusing the government of what they describe as inaction in implementing previously signed agreements. Among their demands is the settlement of outstanding payments owed to education workers. Well, Alhaji Malik Yum, the National Secretary General of SIEMS, the Autonomous Union of Middle and Secondary School Teachers of Senegal, explains.
We've been facing great difficulties as far as our careers are concerned, and now we want them to digitalize all the platforms which are in charge of taking care of our careers. This is one point. The second point is related to the situation of one specific civil servants who so far have great problems in their status. We want them to have the same status as all civil servants. And we felt that this is not normal. After working for government for at least 20 years or 25 or 30 years, at least when you retire, you should have a pension on which you could live. The third point is related to, the general pay. We realize that there are some situations that government should sort out related to lack of equity, because teachers suffer most from those situations than other civil servants who are very well paid. And we said that as far as we are in the same administration, now if we have the same qualifications, we should have the same level of payment, at least equity. We don't talk about having the same salaries, wages, but at least equity, and then we should find a solution to that. And finally, the other point is related also to taxes. They pay some debts, but the way they put taxes on the debts is not normal, because they take more than they should.
That was Alhaji Yum, one of the organizers of the strike that is expected today, tomorrow, and next week, Monday. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Nigerian government denounces a report by U.S. Congress over alleged Christian genocide. Malo River Union on edge of diplomatic tensions after arrest of Sierra Leonean troops by Guinean forces. ECO is set to launch a joint naval operation to secure the Gulf of Guinea. Well, still ahead in the news, and we have a press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
The Liberian Senate is currently reviewing a bill proposing the establishment of a claims court. The initiative seeks to create a specialized judicial unit where citizens and private entities can seek redress against the government for alleged rights abuses. WDR's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Packer reports.
Senator Abraham Darius Delon of Mosorado County is the main sponsor of the new bill that seeks to establish the claims court in Liberia. He says the proposed court is anchored in Article 26 of the Liberian Constitution, which guarantees fundamental rights, including right to life, property ownership, and personal freedom.
Once your rights are abused, there is no court in the republic that grants the right to citizens, the opportunity to citizens to sue government and agents of government acting on behalf of government when rights are abused.
Addressing concerns about possible duplication with existing courts, the lawmaker clarified that the claims court would have a specific mandate focusing strictly on cases involving abuse of fundamental rights.
The criminal code A, B, C, D, and even E. E has to do with armed robbery. A has to do with capital offenses, especially like treason, murder, rape, anything that is especially not bailable. Those are criminal codes to which only the government can sue.
A report by Liberia's Independent National Commission on Human Rights documented disturbing patterns of violations, including deaths in police custody, disappearances, and other abuses of fundamental freedoms across multiple counties. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Packer, Monrovia.
In Togo, cultural actors are voicing frustration over what they see as state neglect. On Tuesday, artists and industry professionals held an urgent press conference in Lomé to raise the alarm over worsening working and living conditions in the sector. The conference was organized by the Togolese Musicians Federation. Augustine Colley completes the story.
For more than 5 years, the cultural sector has been undergoing a restructuring process. But according to artists, little has changed. They say existing laws are outdated, funding mechanisms are virtually non-existent, and mobility grants are almost impossible to access. The president of the Togolese Musicians Federation, Ariel Dassanun, describes the situation as a cycle of repeated promises without results. He says the cultural sector today is on its knees.
Artists have had enough. Our regulations are outdated. There are no longer any funding or support mechanism for artists, and the social side don't even get started. Mobility funds, which were meant to allow artists to travel and represent the country, are almost non-existent. Given this situation, we feel it is our responsibility to alert the highest authorities and tell them that the cultural sector is on its knees. Cultural spaces are closed and there are virtually no cultural activities taking place.
At the center of their demands is the effective implementation of the National Fund for Cultural Promotion created in 2023. They are also calling for the enforcement of private copying remuneration in line with the UEMOA directive and an urgent reform of the 1991 copyright law, which they say is no longer suited to the digital age. Artists are further demanding formal recognition of a professional status for creatives, including appropriate social protection as many work without health coverage or security in cases of illness.
You cannot develop a sector without taking into account the needs of its actors. We are calling for these stakeholders to be invited quickly so we can outline the urgent priorities. The situation is serious. All the warning signals are red.
To amplify their message, cultural stakeholders have produced short video clips shared on social media directly appealing to the country's highest authorities. They describe the move as a call for urgent dialogue, not confrontation, in hopes of concrete and swift action.
Sylvie Wadr goes to report presented by Augustine Colley.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Well, let's join Banjul correspondent Sang Donald Mendy with the newspaper review.
Hello and welcome to the press review coming to you from Banjul. Let us take a look at the front pages of today's newspaper. We begin with the Standard, which reports government bans students from roaming streets to solicit donations. Recently, the government has issued a press statement banning students from roaming the streets to solicit donations, citing concerns over safety, public order, and the protection of minors. Information Minister defend publication of the National People's Party statement. From the Standard, we now move to the point, and here is what is reporting today. Police testifies Manjang refused to give statement at Mile 2. The trial of a former jungler under President Yahya Jammeh continues before the High Court as police testify that Sana Manjang refused to give a statement while in custody at Mile 2 prison. And modern nations compete through idea, innovation, says Pergamen's Gambia's Minister of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology. For our final stop this morning, we take a look at the Alcamba Times, which is reporting that Gamtel and Gamcel scrutinized by lawmakers over 2022 financial irregularities, vow reforms. The management of Gambia's state-owned telecommunication giants, Gamtel and Gamcel, faced tough questioning from the National Assembly's Public Enterprise Committee regarding their 2022 annual activity reports, financial statements, and accompanying audit findings. That's all for today's press review. We now return to the studios.
Well, many thanks to Sang Donald Mendy with a press review from the Gambia.
Politics,
Analysis on major news,
social matters, and all. This is The Guest.
Well, I guess interview segment features Alhaji Malik Youb, National Secretary General of SAMES, the Autonomous Union of Middle and Secondary School Teachers of Senegal. The JHSNist explains the position of the umbrella body, its demands, and reaction about Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko's failure to highlight their concerns during his appearance at the National Assembly. Youm says a full strike is planned for tomorrow, with further action scheduled for next Monday, March 2.
Now, my reaction to the speech of the Prime Minister of Senegal is just that we didn't expect much from him because, as usual, we know that generally when he goes to the National Assembly, the speech is much oriented where, topics which are not really related to the real focuses people are waiting for, such as talking about school, talking about daily life of people. Generally, it is, political talks. And this is why we didn't pay much attention to what he was talking about. What was most important for us is that we decided after our meeting to take the decision to send a new watchword. And now it will start from tomorrow. And we think that all the teachers will respect it.
In your opinion, what are the urgent issues that need to be addressed?
As far as talking about agreements is concerned, we don't think government has a choice to make. They are obliged to materialize all the agreements that were already signed. Because, when a government takes the responsibility to sign an agreement, it means that the government must be ready to apply it. And from this point of view, I don't think we have to say that this is priority, this is not priority. Agreements must be concretely, applied. And this is the only way we can avoid, turmoil in our school.
Talking about avoiding turmoil, bring us to speed. How recent are some of these agreements that you're talking about, or are these agreements that the current government inherited from the previous administration, and what were some of the demands?
No, definitely. I'm talking about the agreements the new government inherited from the previous one. Because, as we talk about administration is just a continuous thing. It does not stop. What the former government has signed involves the responsibility of this government. And in this point of view, they have to apply it. We've been, just in our schools teaching without any problem for at least 2 years. I mean, from 2024 up to 2026. And now, after having given them, enough time, 2 years, it's time for unions now to go back and do their job. And our job is to put on the table claims, and then they have to bring solutions for, the development of our school.
So what are some of the demands still by the association?
We've been facing great difficulties as far as our carriers are concerned. And now we want them to digitalize all the platforms which are in charge of taking care of our carriers. This is one point. The second point is related to the situation of one specific civil servants who so far have great problems in their status. We want them to have the same status as all civil servants. And finally, the other point is related also to taxes. They pay some debts, but the way they put taxes on the debts is not normal because they take more than they should.
Alhaji Malik Yum is the National Secretary General of the Autonomous Union of Middle and Secondary School Teachers of Senegal, SEMS. Well, in sports, Cote d'Ivoire's women's national team will face Benin and Kenya in international friendlies as they prepare for the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. The Elephants begin camp in Abidjan this week with matches set for 28 February and 4 March. Meanwhile, WAFU Zone A has unveiled a packed 2026 calendar headlined by the return of the historic Amilcar Cabral Cup in Guinea this August, alongside several youth and women's tournaments across the region. And in Europe, Paris Saint-Germain defender Achraf Hakimi is set to face trial in France following rape allegations made in 2023. The Morocco captain denies the accusations. Well, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening. And many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maudu Ju for the technical assistance. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X and Instagram, and Facebook. WDR English. Coming up is a repeat broadcast of WDR's flagship gender program 50-50 with Na Didi Tete. I am Sankule Jibril Janko. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to